Welcome to International Podcast Month, or IPM. IPM is brought to you by the organizational team, Cole, Tess, and Theron. A very special thank you to all of our participants, without whom this event wouldn't be possible. And now, on to the episode.
The Unexplored Places, Tango Sector, is an actual play podcast about the crew of the spaceship Pelagian, a ragtag group of reckless guns for hire, taking jobs, facing rivals, making enemies, and scraping by amidst the plots and schemes of the cops, cults, and criminals who control their home in Tango Sector. Find us on Twitter at UnexploredCast, and tune in every other Tuesday, wherever you get your podcasts.
Tabletop Potluck, an actual play podcast created to help diversify the world of mainstream tabletop role-playing games.
And make tasty recipes.
And help you find your new favorite RPG system.
And to have fun.
So check it out.
Now on all podcast directories.
Hey, come sit at our table.
One of the oldest laws in Calda is, no machine shall ever rival sapient life in knowledge or ability. For centuries, no one could tell you why. But now, ancient machines have awoken that threaten all of Chell. Join Hector, the Skeletonian fighter.
Do you tell chicken fortunes?
Wilm, the Cyclops bard.
Oh, you're a skeleton. How is that happening? Are you alive?
Nyx, the changeling warlock.
I can't believe this. This is amazing. This is a tent, but it has a stone floor.
And Tass, the halfling druid.
Alright, let's go. Let's leave this poor man alone.
As they unravel the secrets of the Forgotten Army and mitigate a brewing civil war. Coming August 2021, Legends of Chell, the Forgotten Army. Just because something is forgotten doesn't mean that it's gone.
I can draw a picture of us all together. This'll be great.
You wake up startled in the middle of the night, convinced that there's something out there in the darkness. Your brain tells you that there's nothing to be afraid of, that the inhuman shape in the corner of your room is just your laundry piled on a chair. But as you hear the ghostly, ragged breathing that doesn't belong to you, you realize your brain is dead wrong. If you love the mix of horror, mystery, and comedy in shows like Buffy, Ash vs. the Evil Dead, or Supernatural, you'll feel right at home on The Crit Show, a Monster of the Week actual play podcast where the players, playing as themselves, are tasked with being the last line of defense from the forces of evil that go bump in the night. Join us every Wednesday and learn the games we play while the gang tries their best to solve the mysteries, hunt the monsters, and protect the innocent. Their intentions are good. Their dice rolls, not so much. You can find The Crit Show at thecritshowpodcast.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
It began 18 months ago. Some swear they saw a bright light from the center of the forest. Others claim it was a meteor fallen from the sky. Others still remember something more subtle, a shift in the air, thicker somehow and sticky and irresistible. The point is, no one knows exactly why the forest began to change. It was 6 months before a research group called Advance established its perimeter, closed down the borders, and deemed it the quarantine zone. News reports will tell you they evacuated the entire area, but the locals know it would have been futile if they'd tried. Everything in there had already changed. They would have been dragging out monsters if they'd made the attempt, so it was safer just to shut it down. Part of this area was once part of a national park, but no one calls it by its old name anymore, and miles around it on all sides have been taken over by Advance for safety and research. Now people only see the quarantine zone from a distance, and looking at it from the outside is like looking into a room through a dirty window, smudged and unclear. For 1 year, research has happened at the edges of the quarantine zone. Scientists safely at the borders, soldiers making sure nothing goes in or out. That is, until you. Expedition Team Delta, the first to venture into the zone with Advance's blessing, and their explicit instructions to find the center of it, find the cause, and bring back some answers at any cost. You have enough supplies for a 10-day trip into the quarantine zone, 5 days in, 5 days out, based on maps of what the area used to look like before the change. Packets of food, canteens of water and water purification tablets, tents, navigation tools, radios, cameras, and a series of compact, portable machines to test any samples you might take, all pre-packed neatly into packs, plus weapons, just in case. No one knows what you'll encounter in there. And if 5 days isn't enough to reach the center of the zone, well, no one gave you explicit instructions about that, but someone will probably give you an answer when the time comes. Welcome, everyone, to today's International Podcast Month episode. We are playing Trophy Dark, a collaborative storytelling game about a group of treasure hunters on a doomed expedition into a forest that doesn't want them there, by Jesse Ross. My name is Christine. I am our GM for today. I am also the host and GM of the Unexplored Places, an actual play podcast currently playing Scum and Villainy. You can find the show at UnexploredCast on Twitter, and everything else we do linked from there.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Elena. I use she, her pronouns. You can find me on the Tabletop Potluck actual play podcast, where we sample the wide world of tabletop role-playing games. We're at Tabletop Potluck on all social media.
Hi, I'm Max Kasperick. I use they, them, and she, her pronouns. I was a player in the last season of the actual play Legends of Chell, and I'm very excited to say that in this upcoming season, I'm in the GM seat.
Woo!
And I am Rev, he, him, and I am the host and GM of The Crit Show, which is an actual play podcast where we play Monster of the Week and other Powered by the Apocalypse games, all within the same dimension-hopping story. And you can find everything about that at thecritshowpodcast.com.
All right, so the three of you are standing at the edge of the quarantine zone. From far away, which is how you have seen it before, it is nearly impossible to see past this sort of strange, smudged barrier that stands between the quarantine zone and the rest of the world around it. But up close, you can start to make out details through it. You can see it more clearly than you could from far away. The three of you have just been dropped off here by a group of advance soldiers who escorted you to what Advance has deemed the best possible sort of entry point for going into the quarantine zone. You have your materials, you have packs that have been packed for you, and you have your instructions. Charlotte, would you like to tell us a little bit about your character?
Sure. Lee Barnett is a scientist, a naturalist, more specifically, so he's very used to spending time in nature. He's a scrawny guy, curly hair, glasses, and I think as he approaches the barrier, his chest fills with a familiar feeling.
And what is one thing that you see, what is one shape that you make out through the barrier that catches your interest?
I think I see a bird in one of the trees. Its coloring is very interesting to me. It's kind of like a warbler, kind of like a bright yellow color. Maybe unnatural for this area.
All right, Max, tell us a little bit about your character.
So my character is Ivy Kozlowski, also known as Rook. It's a nickname that she earned from an older colleague who referred to as a real clever bird. She is tall, kind of broad-shouldered, with the sort of build of someone who is strong, but did not get that strength through visiting the gym, got that strength through performing hard labor in the world. And she has dark hair with a couple gray strands starting to appear.
And what would you say, what is Rook thinking about as she approaches the barrier?
So I imagine that Rook, like me, is from southwestern Pennsylvania, but maybe a slightly more rural part than I grew up in, and I think that she is reminded of stories of the knot deer from that region, from Appalachia, of things that look like they should be deer, but just aren't quite deer.
And Rev, would you like to introduce your character?
I'm playing Dr. Emmett Blackburn, a neurologist. He is very wiry, with dark black hair and a well-kept beard. And as he approaches, the barrier is just standing with lips pursed, smelling the air.
And as you approach the barrier, what is distracting you as you stand here?
I spent a lot of time before we left studying the types of moss and fungus that are supposed to be in this area. And right off the bat, I smell something that doesn't have the right tinge to it. Like there's a sour note that belongs to a moss or a fungus that shouldn't be in this area.
All right. So, the three of you step through the barrier and into the quarantine zone. And as you sort of cross over this section that has been deemed the edge of the quarantine zone, I think part of you expects to feel something different, but it doesn't particularly. You know, you are standing on grass, you step across a sort of invisible line of indistinct kind of haziness, and you step out on the other side, and you are on the same grass, smelling the same things, seeing the same things, the same trees and birds, but clearer. And you begin to walk, to make your way into the area. There is sort of thick, tall grass that is littered here and there by sprays of purple flowers. There are some sort of, at this point, kind of sparse trees that you can see denser areas of trees in the distance. And I think the only thing that strikes you as being particularly strange as you begin your journey in is that when you look up, the sky looks, again, blurry, looks almost kind of like smudged glass. The clouds beyond it and the sort of sunrise on the horizon look out of focus. But other than that, things at first feel the same. They feel natural. You all begin your walk. Which one of you is leading the way here? Which one of you is taking sort of point as you begin to walk into the quarantine zone?
Asking for marching order is always a good sign.
Well, I don't know. There's a part of me that wants to volunteer because I'm I'm our guard, but at the same time, I don't really know where we're going. I mean, vaguely, yes, but...
Well, I think survival is a handy skill to lead with, but I also have nature. Yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I'll take point.
Alright, so Lee is leading the charge here. Rook, as the guard, are you bringing up the rear? Are you sort of putting the wiry, vulnerable neurologist in the middle here, or are you charging ahead as well?
I think that I'm going to try and keep pace, with Emmett, and sort of walk just behind Lee, because I'm guessing I can probably see pretty well past Lee's shoulder at this point. I don't think there's a ton of brush, and I'm nice and tall and everything.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Alright, so based on the sort of, again, you all have been given what is essentially a map of what this area looked like the last time anyone was in here. No one knows how accurate that map may or may not still be. But if the sort of landscape hasn't changed that much, then what you are expecting is a sort of a relatively easy pace 5-day trip to the center. You've got sort of like vague landmarks marked off such that you know, if you can reach each one by a certain point each day, you should be on track to make it all the way in and then back out in time. But the other thing that you are sort of meant to be doing as you go is not just getting an idea of what is at the center of this, but also sort of getting a read of what things are like in the quarantine zone as a whole, keeping an eye out for strange, anything out of the ordinary, taking samples, that kind of stuff.
Are our instruments working properly? Like compasses, any research material we've taken with us?
Yeah, at this point, compasses, you've come in from sort of the south side of the quarantine zone. You should be headed due north. Your compass tells you you're headed due north. It doesn't seem to be doing anything out of the ordinary at this point.
Good to know.
Are there other particular tools that you're interested in? Or is the compass sort of the main thing while you're on the move?
Compass was my primary worry at the moment.
Do we have any kind of satellite GPS thing?
I don't think so. I think that the barrier around the quarantine zone seems to... I think the scientists that have been exploring the area already know from sending in, drones and other things that GPS doesn't work super well in here, which is also a part of why there isn't a, better reading of what you're actually walking into in terms of landscape.
Okay.
They've been having a hard time getting anything out of the quarantine zone. So that is sort of I don't think they bothered sending you in with a GPS that they knew wouldn't work.
Mm-hmm.
I think just out of habit, I check my digital watch to see if it still is accurately reading the time in this moment.
Yes, it appears to be accurately reading the time.
And my gaze goes from the watch up to the canopy and that kind of fogged sky. I don't think that I care for that. Any ideas what kind of phenomenon would cause something like that? The foliage up there doesn't seem to be strong enough to block the sun out like that.
Rook shrugs and says, cloudy weather?
Yeah.
I wonder if the trees are able to get enough sunlight. I mean, they must be.
Lee, I think that based on your sort of experience as a naturalist, it seems from looking at the trees and the other foliage here that there's no sort of dearth of sunlight. They seem to be growing just fine. In fact, it's hard to tell if it's because of the amount of sun they're getting or the fact that this area has not been, occupied by humans for 18 months or something else, but they seem, richer and more sort of...
Nature is healing.
Well grown in than you would have expected.
Would I be able to take some samples?
Absolutely, yes. What in particular do you want to take samples of here?
I think I'd like to grab a sample of the soil.
Sure, absolutely. I don't think that's difficult. I think you can just go ahead and do so.
Scoop it up.
Yeah.
Maybe some plant cuttings as well.
Yeah. Are you sort of stopping in one place to do this? Are you sort of taking a break here and there as you walk? What's the...
Yeah, I think as we go along, I'm kneeling down to pick something up that interests me here and there.
Yeah. So you get some soil samples, you get some plant cuttings. I think you come across maybe an hour or so into your walk, you come across a particularly dense area of these sort of purple flowers that seem to be everywhere. And you kind of stop to kneel down and get a couple of cuttings of these flowers. And as that happens, Rook, you were probably the first to notice this. You hear the sound of something kind of largish moving kind of just out of sight through the trees, which have started to get denser here.
Oh.
What do you do?
I think that I kind of try to signal to Emmett to, just stay there, be quiet, and I'm gonna keep my eyes on wherever I think the noise is coming from, and gently put a hand on Lee's shoulder and say, "There's something here. Don't move."
Lee nods his head slowly.
I stop at the gesture and just slowly lower to the ground, crouching.
Can I see anything, or is it just like brush moving?
You can see some movement. I think it's a little more than brush moving. You can see a sort of shape moving in the distance, though it's hard to make out from here what it actually is. I think the most noticeable thing is that it's quite noisy. It seems to be making a lot of noise with the brush and the, tree branches snapping and things like that. Whatever this is, it isn't moving cautiously like you'd think a predator might, is sort of maybe more just coincidentally happens to be near you.
Okay. I think I'm just gonna wait and see if it passes us by.
You take a minute, and you hear it as it starts to move closer. And, a minute passes, and then another, and then it sort of moving directly in your direction sort of breaks through the tree line and into sight. And what you can see is a beast is kind of the only word you have for it. It's hard to tell what animal this is, but whatever it is massive. It is maybe the size of a moose.
Oh.
And it has antlers like a moose, but its body is sort of more massive. And its face, despite these antlers, doesn't look like a moose's. There's something almost bear-like about the way it is moving, and as it sort of moves towards you, it appears to be limping slightly, and it is sort of headed directly in your direction, despite its limp kind of quite quickly, and it is making this sort of like low, kind of keening moan that doesn't sound like the noise that either a moose or a bear would make.
So I think that, Rook is cursing themselves for not bringing their elephant rifle like they had originally planned. And they're going to sort of lean on the nearest tree and shoulder their rifle and just pop off a couple of warning shots into the ground, see if they can scare this thing away.
Sure. That sounds like it's going to be a roll.
All right.
So, when you attempt a risky task, say what you hope will happen, and ask the GM and other players what could possibly go wrong. So you said your intended effect here is to sort of scare this thing off, is that right?
Yes.
So what do we think could go wrong here?
The opposite happening?
Yeah, I think the obvious is attracting its attention, potentially angering it.
Oh boy.
Or even scaring it in such a way that the thing it does is not run away, but is in fact run towards you. Any other thoughts for what could possibly go wrong here? Or is sort of the obvious answer the best one?
I think that another option is that the gunfire could attract other things.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, I think that's another good idea.
How did you think of, like, the one thing that was worse?
All right, so we're going to gather our dice pool here. You get one light-colored die if this is something you were skilled at. I think that between combat and survival, which are two of your skills, this seems like something you are certainly skilled at because of your background.
Yeah.
You can take a second light-colored die if you want to accept a devil's bargain from another player or from me.
I think this early on, I'm not gonna take any devil's bargains just yet.
And then you can add a dark-colored die to your roll if you are willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed.
I am willing to risk my body.
Okay.
I don't know if I actually get a choice in whether it's the mind or body, but...
All right, so this will be one light-colored die and one dark-colored die. That's a 5. So, it's also... Well, we'll get to that in a second. Two things. You've rolled a 4 on your light-colored die and a 5 on your dark-colored die. So it means you've rolled a 5, which means you succeed, but there's some kind of complication. I'll describe the complication, and then you describe how you succeed. However, because your dark-colored die is higher than your light-colored die, this counts as a ruin roll. Your ruin, which for you is currently 2, shows how much the forest has dug its claws into you, including the physical and mental harm that you've suffered. Generally, it starts at 1, though that increases if you have any rituals, which... I'm sure we'll get to rituals at some point. You've started with 1 ritual, so your ruin is at 2. When you witness or undergo something disturbing, you make a ruin roll, and if the number that you roll is higher than your current ruin, your ruin goes up. So the 5 that you rolled here on your dark die is in fact higher than 2, so your ruin goes up to 3, which means I'm going to give you a condition to reflect how the forest is warping your mind and body.
Oh, boy.
We're only like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, so, okay, a couple of things we have to do. I have to tell you your complication, you have to tell me how you succeed, and I also have to give you your condition here. So, I think that the condition here is sort of tied into the consequence or the complication. I think the complication is that this creature, this beast, is going to sort of take a swipe at you with its claws out of just like a sheer sort of like startle or panic reaction to the loud noise before you successfully scare it off. So I think it takes one of these sort of large bear-like claws and just like swipes it across your, let's say your kind of shoulder, I guess is probably maybe your arm, somewhere along your arm.
Okay. Ow.
It hurts for sure. It is not a super deep wound. Again, this thing is not like trying to hurt you so much as you are just in the way as it's having this sort of panicked fear response. But you do successfully scare it off. You get to describe how you succeed here.
I think that since it gets close enough to take a swing at me, I think that as it swings on me, I accidentally fire the gun again, and that being, so close to, we'll say like its head maybe, it sort of grazes it, and that's enough to actually get it to run the other direction.
Yeah. As it gets, especially I think as its head gets close enough to you for this, something that you notice about it that you couldn't quite see as it was farther away, is that its antlers are they're not covered in like velvet the way a moose's antlers are.
Oh.
They seem to be covered with a sort of like bright green kind of moss. As for your condition here, because of your ruin roll, it swipes at your arm, you fire off a second shot, it bolts sort of back off the way it came, this sort of like lumbering, limping run, and you sort of like look down at your arm and sort of automatically go to like see how bad the damage is. And for a second, as you look down, there's torn skin, there's blood, it looks a little dirty, probably needs to be cleaned out. And for a second, it looks like there are tiny white insects in the wound. And then you blink, and they're gone.
Woof.
So I'm gonna what's the best way to write this condition? Bug wound. Bug wound.
Bug wand.
Bug wound.
Bug
wounds.
Bug wound.
The other two of you, Lee and Emmett, as this is happening, as this huge beast stumbles out of the woods, swipes at Rook, and then lumbers back away in fear, what are you all doing?
Before Rook shot at it, would I have been able to notice if it was behaving strangely at all? Like, not typical animal behavior?
I think that the main thing that you noticed about its behavior was that it was very clearly injured. It looked as if it was in pain. It wasn't hunting, necessarily. It didn't seem to have much of a purpose, and it didn't seem to be running away from anything either. But it was definitely, like, maybe looking for a place to die was sort of the vibe of its behavior.
Yeah, and I think I stay crouched down until the gunfire, and at the gunfire, I can't help but stand up and spin around to see what's going on. The hell was that thing?
I think we should follow it.
A wounded animal is typically desperate, so I'm not sure that we want to follow it and risk cornering it. Especially if it hasn't eaten, it's gonna be, if it's too injured to hunt, then it's gonna take whatever it can get.
It looked like it was on death's door.
Yeah, well, so did that water buffalo that almost gored me a year ago.
Are you bleeding?
Oh, yeah, what do you guys are doctors, right?
Yes.
Will you patch me up?
Come here.
I absolutely am not a doctor.
And Emmett starts to dig around in their pack and pulls out a first aid kit. Let me see.
Sure, I will reach out the arm, and I'm definitely, still looking at the wound, like giving it sort of a second look over to make sure that there's not more bugs.
Sure. I think that it's one of those it's hard to tell if you're seeing bugs or if you're seeing, like, the weird after image of this kind of gross sight burned into your eyes. Emmett does not see bugs.
Okay.
And so the reaction I think that you get, Rook, is such that you're probably just seeing things. Because you can't imagine that this doctor would see bugs in your arm and not react to that.
Yeah. Unless he's one of those, like, weird hippies that's like, oh, the maggots will eat the infection. Like, what is this, Game of Thrones? No, but,
cool, bugs! My favorite!
Sick, I love blood bugs.
Rook is gonna keep quiet for now. She doesn't want anyone to think that she's, like, already cracked under pressure or something.
Yeah.
And this is just gonna be, she just keeps telling herself it's just another scar to add to all the other ones she's got.
So I think that Emmett, this first aid is probably a roll.
Okay.
So when you attempt something risky, say what you hope will happen, and then ask the GM and other players what could possibly go wrong.
I hope to stop this bleeding and keep out any strange infection. What could go wrong?
Seems so straightforward. I'm like, what could go wrong?
I know, especially as a trained professional. But then again, as a neurologist, how much wound dressing are you normally doing?
It's true.
Don't worry about it. Listen, it's on my skills list. What do you want from me?
I guess you could forget a step in the cleaning or something.
It could take you a long time, and there's no guarantee that this thing wouldn't come back.
Ooh. Or that something else wouldn't come out of the woods.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't put enough maggots on it before I wrap it.
I'm always forgetting. Is it this many maggots or this many maggots?
I read a journal a few weeks ago. I think they've upped the number by 3, and it's so weird to think about. Seems a waste.
Yeah, it went from 0 to 3, actually.
All right. So you are definitely skilled at this. So that's 1 light die. Does anyone have a devil's bargain to offer? Maybe it uses up more of your medical supplies than anticipated. Could be a devil's bargain here.
Maybe when you put the antiseptic on my arm, I just reflexively punch you.
I think it's early. I don't want to. Yeah.
All right. And then, are you willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed?
Oh no.
Great. So one light colored die here.
Okay.
That's a 6.
Oh, wonderful.
Beautiful.
So you succeed. I feel like the "you succeed" describe how really works better for elaborate actions more so than for bandaging somebody's wounds. But if you want to go ahead and describe how you do so, feel free.
You know, I think I'll leave that to the listener's imagination, just how beautifully wrapped this is.
A little bow on top.
Clean it, wrap it, secure it, good to go. Rook, it's a little sore, but it's not the worst thing in the world, and you can no longer see bugs because there's a bandage over it, so that's great news.
Yeah.
I think that as you finish up, the 3 of you can sort of still hear the sort of half roar, half groans that this creature is emitting as it starts to get farther and farther away from you, headed in the direction that Rook scared it off. But it seems to be out of your way for now.
All right, well, as long as it stays out of our way, I still don't think we should follow it.
Well, are you good to carry on, Rook?
Yeah, it'll take more than this to put me down.
All right.
Lee, before all of this happened, you did manage to successfully collect those samples, so you have, I think, a good few samples here. I think as you continue on, you probably collect a couple more of them. There is at one point you come across a pond, and there is some, small wildlife in the pond, some little lizards, some tadpoles, things like that. If you wanted to collect those samples.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just get a little scoop of the pond water.
Yeah. I think in it you can see, like, you catch a couple of these kind of tiny, like, fingernail-sized lizards, which are covered in sort of, like, patches of kind of red-brown lizard skin, and also areas where their skin looks either more like fish scales, or in some cases this sort of like bright translucent green of like a chlorophyll-rich leaf.
I've got to get this under a microscope.
While Lee's collecting samples, I think Ivy just can't help herself, and she's gonna poke around the edge of the pond and try to find like some salamanders, like look under rocks, see if there's any salamanders or crayfish or anything like that.
Yeah, I think you find maybe a couple bigger versions of these little lizards that have the same kind of weird patchy skin. I think somewhere you lift one of these rocks and something moves and you think that it's a snake, and then you realize that it's just a very thick vine, but it moved. Like a snake, you thought?
Oh, okay. After that, no more rocks. I'm done after that one.
Emmett, are you doing anything in particular here?
I think just kicking around the outside of the pond, looking for any sign of anything that is dead, any bones or anything like that.
I think you don't find anything that is dead, and I think that is strange.
Yeah, I pull out a little pad and start to take some notes about the canopy that's blocking out the sun and no sign of like life decay so far.
And you all managed to sort of give these samples and take these notes and then set back off on your way, I assume, yes?
Yeah, I think at some point Lee like wades a little too far into the pond to get some samples. So a little wet now.
Just like mid-thigh down, drenched.
Yeah.
It's
little over-enthusiastic in that moment.
Yeah.
Rook definitely demands that you check for leeches after that. Like, roll up the pant legs to make sure you don't have any leeches. I don't know why, I just have bugs on my mind. You know?
I mean, I'll do so.
No leeches.
Cool.
I hope you brought extra socks. That's a good way to get a fungus.
I assume we have changes of clothing.
Yes, I think so. It's also, I think, kind of weather-wise here, it is kind of warmish. It's kind of high 70s. It's a little humid. It's not uncomfortably so, but it's certainly not, like, cold enough for walking around in wet pants to be, like, devastatingly uncomfortable. And you all continue to walk, to make your way according to this sort of vague, maybe correct map that you have, to make your way towards the center of the quarantine zone.
Was the pond on the map? Like, have we actually passed any landmarks?
I think the pond was on the map, yes. It's a pretty small pond, and the map is not super high resolution or terribly detailed. But this is roughly where there should have been a pond, yes.
Okay.
And also, as per the map, you walk a little ways further, and you sort of come out of this wooded area into a field. And according to your map, you'll walk through this field for an hour or so, and then come back into another sort of heavily wooded area. And as you sort of open out onto this plain that slopes slightly downward in the direction of what you can see is a tree line that seems pretty accurate, again, sort of landmark-wise. You can see this tree line in the distance, and you all start making your way towards it. And half an hour passes, and an hour passes, and an hour and a half passes, and 2 hours pass. And that tree line seems kind of just as far away as it did when you first made your way into this field. The strange thing is that it doesn't look like you are still in the same place. The landscape around you has changed, you know. There were some sort of pink flowers off to the side early on, and now those are not there anymore, and, you know, something else has taken their place. It looks like you are making progress here, but the tree line doesn't appear to be getting any closer.
Well, as long as we're walking, we might as well play a game. I spy with my little eye something green.
Tree. Well,
yes.
Leaves, I guess.
If I turn around and look back, how far away does the tree line that we came out of look?
Far.
Oh, that's a good question.
It looks far. It looks, 2.5. You're losing sight of it. Again, it's up a little bit of an incline, so you can sort of still see it a bit. But it's not just behind you, certainly.
I want to peer down the scope of my rifle towards the tree line we've been heading towards, just see if there's anything there that I can see.
trees.
Just trees?
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of what I figured.
I think that you can see, again, like along the tree line, not very much. I think that as you are sort of scanning the area around, you can see that sort of partway between where you are now and the tree, you can see sort of just off to the east, there appears to be some kind of structure, like a small building. It might be a ranger station or a small cabin of some kind, something like that, which you definitely didn't see before this structure. So again, sort of indicating that you are actually moving somewhere, despite the fact that the tree line is not getting any closer. There is a building sort of a little ways off to the east.
I'm gonna propose that maybe we change our course slightly and head towards the building.
I think so, too.
That's fair.
All right, you all change course, make your way, slightly northeast towards this building. And that does get closer as you approach it. Quite quickly, actually. I think after making so little progress for, 2.5 hours, it's amazing how quickly you can close the gap between you and something that you see in the distance. And as you get closer, it looks like whatever this is probably was some sort of cabin. I say was and probably because it's hard to make out the actual structure itself. The whole thing is overgrown with this purple-flowered vine that appears to be growing up from out of the ground and sort of up its walls over most of the roof. It seems to be sort of curling in through the doorway. And also sort of spread out about 6 feet on all sides of the cabin itself in a perfect circle.
Perfect circle. Is this what they call a fairy circle?
I want to step through that circle so bad.
I'm gonna... You're gonna step in?
Yeah, I'm gonna step in.
All right. When you attempt a risky task, say what you hope will happen and ask GM and the other players what could possibly go wrong.
I mean, what I ideally want to happen in a perfect world is I have some understanding of what these flowers are.
Oof, so many things could possibly go wrong.
Yes, hit me.
You could get injured. The ground beneath the vine coverage could be unstable somehow. You can't see beneath it, so you don't know, what's in there. You might disrupt something inside of this cabin. Anyone else want to throw out some ideas here?
You might perturb something in the flowers.
Mm-hmm.
I already saw one vine move, so for all I know, these vines move too. So it could just be like could just wrap around your leg or something as you step over it.
Delightful. All right, so take 1 light colored die if the task is something you are skilled at. Do we think that nature here feels skilled?
I think so.
I think so.
I
think I've spent enough time in forests and around things like this where it's like, okay, I kind of understand the inherent risk of, like, moving in a forest generally.
Yeah. It sounds like you're certainly risking your mind or body in order to succeed.
Yeah.
So that's 1 light, 1 dark. Does anyone have a good devil's bargain here?
The only thing I can think of is an extra die for something, maybe like pollen or something on the flowers that gets on you, that is a natural attraction for something else.
I'm absolutely taking that. Devil's bargain.
God. Oh, no.
Being marked by the flowers.
Devil's bargain is something that, if I succeed, happens.
It happens regardless of success. It happens no matter what.
Gotcha.
So if you accept this, you will be marked by the flowers regardless of the result of your roll.
All right, sorry. Sorry, folks. I'm doing it.
All right. Hey, that's a 6. A 2 and a 6 on light dice and a 3 on dark dice. Because the dark die is not the highest, you don't take any ruin here. And a 6 means you succeed completely. So describe how. What are you doing as you step into these flowers?
That's an excellent question. I think I step through, no issue. I think as I take a deep breath in, just a piece of pollen from a flower, it finds its way up my nose.
I think, as you look at these flowers from sort of within this circle rather than from outside of it, you can see that the flowers themselves against the, like, dark green of the vine seem to make a sort of pattern.
Ooh.
It's hard to make out what the pattern is, and part of the reason it's hard to make out is because you sort of look at the pattern and then you turn and look the other way to see if there's a pattern sort of to the side of you, and you turn to look back, and it's a different pattern. And whatever pattern these flowers are in, despite the fact that you don't feel the ivy moving, the pattern of flowers appears to be sort of constantly shifting around you.
Oh, I want very much to reach out and touch one, but I think I know that that's a bad idea, even by my standards. So I'm not going to do that.
You don't want to try to take a sample of these flowers?
Are these the same purple flowers that I was able to take a sample of earlier?
They're the same color, they're the same petal structure. They're larger?
Yeah, okay, I'll take a sample.
Okay. You reach down and you clip off a couple of these and put these in like a little petri dish or something like that.
It's probably like a plastic baggie.
Sure,
honestly.
Yeah, some sort of little container where it will be safe and you can slip it into your pack. And yeah, it is. The flowers. The shape of purple flowers kind of shifts around you as you crouch down and cut one of these flowers away, and as you stand back up. And then they seem to shift such that there is a patch of this ivy that has no flowers, like a path that is leading you back out of the circle.
All right.
Do the rest of us see that?
Is that what you're focusing on?
I think I'm probably just watching to make sure that Lee doesn't get, swallowed up by a big,
sure.
Little Shop of Horrors monster.
Then yeah, I think you do see that. I think you maybe didn't notice that the flowers seemed to be shifting until that happened.
Now, I'm more of an animal person than a plant person, but flowers don't normally move, right?
That's correct. Not that fast, anyway. And I think that in that moment, taking a moment to glance up at the sky again to see, we've been out in this open field. What does the sky look like here compared to when we were in the canopy?
Still blurry and kind of indistinct. I think you can make out that the sun has moved about the right amount based on how long you think you've been walking and how long your watch says. You can see that it's kind of directly overhead now. But it's like smudged.
And I point up, indicating to Rook. It doesn't quite seem like overcast anymore, does it?
Rook kind of squints and goes, "Huh, yeah. That is pretty weird. Well, I guess that's what we're here for, though, right? For you two to look at all the weird shit."
Yes, I suppose that is why we're here.
Do you head off from this little cabin at this point? And if so, which way do you head? Do you continue?
Are we going
towards the tree line the way you were going, or in a different direction?
Are we going to investigate the structure at all?
I'm not crazy about stepping inside the ring of flowers.
I'm already here. I can do it.
If you want to.
Yes,
I'll take a peek inside. See if there's anything.
May not be a bad idea. There could be something useful.
Yeah, I'll take a peek.
All right, so you ignore the path that the flowers have made for you, and continue closer to this cabin.
For now, hopefully it'll still be there when I'm done, hopefully.
And as you make your way towards the structure, you can see that there are places where the wood that would have once made up this small cabin has been completely eaten away and replaced with this ivy that is climbing up it. There is no door anymore. As you go in, there appears to be no floor anymore. It is just this ivy. You sort of poke a head in through the open doorway, and there are sort of remnants of what was once probably a table, and a chair, and not much else. Either this place was pretty empty originally, or everything else that was in it has sort of already been consumed or grown over, or removed, maybe. There are places where, the ceiling along one wall shouldn't still be holding up because there's no wall beneath it. But this ivy is holding it in place and keeping it in shape. And I think as you look inside, the shape that the flowers are making inside of the cabin, like on the floor of the cabin, rather than being this sort of shifting pattern, seems to be one kind of continuous shape, which is the shape of a body on the ground. Kind of like a crime scene outline, except instead of chalk, it is these purple flowers.
Oh.
Is that sight disturbing to you?
I think yes.
Okay. So, when you witness or undergo something disturbing, make a ruin roll by rolling 1 dark die. If the dark die rolled is higher than your current ruin, which is 3, yes? Is 3?
Yes, that's correct.
Then you will add 1 to your ruin, and I will tell you how the forest is warping your mind and body. You rolled a 2, so you don't take ruin here. You manage to sort of keep your cool as you look at this, human body outline in the flowers inside of this cabin.
Yeah, I think I just back up and out and find my way.
That path is still there for you.
I whisper a little thank you to the vines for leaving this path for me still. And I leave.
Do you tell your companions what you saw?
I think I just say there wasn't anything in there.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Okay, which way from here?
Well, which way now? The tree line doesn't seem to be getting... That was very far, right?
Yeah, it feels like
Yeah.
we've been walking for a while.
Yes.
Well, we could always try a slightly different destination.
Maybe just heading to the tree line from here. Maybe this will be sort of different enough that whatever effect that was, we'll walk out of it. Because, we were able to get closer to this place.
Yeah, it's worth giving a try.
Yeah, right.
Right, so you all head back towards the tree line from here. And the same sort of thing happens. You walk for a while and it doesn't seem any closer.
Dang it.
All right, here's the new idea. Turn 90 degrees and start walking in that direction instead.
Okay.
East or west?
Well, east is where we just came from, right? Kind of.
The cabin was east of your original, or northeast of your original position. And then you presumably headed northwards.
North
from there.
Okay. We can keep on heading east.
So we're going to treat it like a riptide?
Out of character. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, I was trying to think. I'm like, I feel like I should know what that means, but...
Yeah, you're supposed to swim...
Perpendicular?
Yes,
not
yes,
against a
you're
riptide,
swim-
but perpendicular, yeah.
Gotcha. Then yes.
So you all turn east and start walking. Again, the landscape around you, changes. The cabin disappears behind you. And after about an hour, I think, Emmett, it's you who looks up and sees a tree line on the horizon.
Oh.
And you take a look at your compass, and you are walking north.
And does the tree line seem to be closer?
No.
Well, now, hold up one moment, please. What does your compass say?
Well, what does my compass say?
North.
It also says, okay, mine says north. Wait, we started heading east.
Yes, riptide.
Could we... I don't think we could have gotten turned around. Got a decent sense of direction, I think.
What time of day is it now?
It is early afternoon, judging by the sun.
Can I look around and see if there's any kind of signs of animals having passed through here, like tracks or anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think you need to roll for that. I think that's well within your skill set, not terribly risky. I think that you can see not as many as you would expect, maybe. This is like a kind of very open field. Not a lot of foliage or underbrush, but, grass. I think that the main thing that you see is not a ton of evidence of, smaller animals like you would expect in this kind of area. You do see hoof prints at one point. And they're sort of leading off to, if you were currently going north, if your compass is right, then they are sort of headed east from here.
Well, something came through here, and we don't see it. So possibly it got to the other side. Alternatively, it kept walking and is lying dead somewhere in the field. So I think we should follow these tracks either the way they came or the way they were headed. I'm assuming that animals know how to navigate this, which is a pretty big assumption, I guess.
I mean, we'll find out at the end of this. I think we should follow the way it was heading.
I almost feel like we should go the way it came, because we're not heading anywhere. If we were to follow, say, our own tracks, we'd get nowhere. I just want to see something very quick. And I'm going to just close my eyes and run towards the tree line.
Nice.
Okay. Just like as fast as you can go?
No, just a jog, but enough to like
trip on
get
a
some
rock
distance.
And die.
Lean over to Lee and go, what the hell is he doing?
I'm trying to decide if this is a roll or not.
Have you ever tried to run in a forest?
Well, it's a
Especially with your
field.
eyes closed?
We're in a
field right now. You're not. This is not wooded area necessarily. I mean, I guess the question for is this a roll or not is also the question of what could possibly go wrong. If enough interesting things could go wrong, then it's a roll.
Well, trip and fall over like a rock or dip in the
fall
ground.
And break your ankle.
Get separated from the group.
Mm-hmm.
Find a big animal.
Yep. The general go-to, you're noisy and attract something's attention. So yeah, I think this can be a roll.
Okay.
I don't think that you are skilled at running.
No.
Forensics, medicine, surgery, secrets, not running.
First off, how dare you?
This doesn't count as surgery?
No, I agree.
Are you willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed?
I am.
Yes, it sounded like that was the case. So you'll get one dark die here, and then if you roll one dark die, you're guaranteed to, not to take ruin necessarily, but for it to count as a ruin roll, and your ruin is only 2. So if you want to take a light die to decrease the chances of that happening, I would say a devil's bargain here that I'm happy to offer is getting temporarily separated from the rest of the group.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Okay. So 1 light die, 1 dark die.
Go. That's a 1 and a 2.
So the good news is the 2 is the same as your ruin. So your ruin isn't going up. The bad news is that your highest die was a 2.
Yeah.
So on a 1 to 3, you fail and things get worse. The GM describes how. The GM may also allow you to succeed, but things will get worse in some other way. And your goal here was you were hoping that running with your eyes closed would help you to reach the tree line.
Yeah, or to test if,
yeah.
Was there actual distance between the 3 of us now? Or was I closer?
Right.
Did they perceive me as further away? Are my senses interfering somehow?
So the good news is that did work. There is distance between the 3 of you now, because your devil's bargain is that you were separated from the other players temporarily. So that's the devil's bargain. The failure here, you are not at the tree line, though it does actually look closer now than it was. When you stop running and open your eyes, you can see ahead of you that you're closer to the tree line. When you turn to look back the way you came, you are in fact far enough away from the other 2 that you cannot see them.
I think I open my eyes and I see the tree line closer. Aha! You see, and I turn around. There are some things that try to with you. Oh shit.
The second thing that you do see, as you sort of take in your surroundings here, is there's a black plastic canteen on the ground behind you. And you look at it and you think, oh, my canteen has fallen off of my pack, and you reach around back to your pack and you can feel your canteen is still on there. And you reach down to grab it, and as you do, the plastic that it's made of sort of disintegrates in your hand into like a dusty black mass that sticks to your fingers. And on the ground around it are several other pieces of equipment that look like they're from your pack. There's a radio, there's a notebook, a couple of other pieces of gear that you know are in your pack. There's a compass. there's a piece of shredded fabric that is the same sort of black kind of polyester material as your pack is made of, kind of littered around the ground around you, but your pack is perfectly intact.
I slowly rise up with this goo on my hand and try to shake my hand and fling it off as my eyes start to dart around the horizon trying to find the other two.
Is this disturbing?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, go ahead and give me a ruin roll. Roll 1 black die. It's 4, which is higher than a 2, so your ruin is going to go up to 3.
Okay.
We're ruin twins now.
Aw.
Ruin triplets.
Ruin triplets.
Yay, ruin triplets.
3 threes.
You look down at this sort of black goo on your hand, and as you were looking at it, you feel like there is something slimy coating your tongue as well.
Ugh.
I can't wait to see the name for that condition.
Slimy tongue.
No, good.
Yeah.
Tongue.
Bug wound, slimy tongue.
Ooh, bug wound, slimy tongue is my new D&D character's name.
Hey there, kids, it's me, Bug Wound Slimy Tongue. Come on down to Cracker Barrel and meet me. So, do we have like walkie-talkies?
You've got radios. Would you like to...
I will I'll attempt to raise Emmett on the radio. I like to think they have a headset.
Ooh, a headset.
I don't know why that's important for me to let the listeners know that I feel like Ivy demanded a headset.
It does feel important.
I do have one question. Like, cinematically, what did they see as I ran away?
Oh, yeah, it's a good question.
It was as if he, like, crested a hill that you couldn't see. It was as if the curve of the ground here was sort of deceptive. He seemed to, like, go up an incline and then move over the other side of it and out of sight.
Yep, just dipped below the horizon.
Boy, look at him go. He sure is fast.
So you attempt to radio him?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Hey, Forrest Gump, we saw you running, but we can't see you anymore.
I think that instead of coming through on your radio, Emmett, it comes through on the radio on the ground.
Yes.
Oh, I don't like that.
I still try to take mine out anyway.
Sure, yeah.
And talk into it, but I'm just watching the one on the ground. Yes, I was able to make it somewhere. I'm closer to the tree line, but I cannot see you anymore somehow.
You did open your eyes now, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, okay, so closer to the tree line. I can't believe that worked.
You missed my moment of triumph when I opened my eyes and I was closer. I was going to state, and my eyes start like darting around again, looking up at the sky and the horizon. There are things in some areas that give off gases or optical illusions, and that sometimes the senses that you are trying to use get in your way of traveling.
Well, okay then. I guess I'm gonna look at Lee and say, I guess we'll try it too, and then shrug.
Yeah.
Wait, we don't want to lose track of each other though. We already lost him. We should like hold hands or something.
I was just going to suggest that. I would actually like to, instead of closing my eyes, I kind of want to walk backwards.
Yeah.
To see if that yields the same result.
Sure.
Or is different somehow.
You know what? I feel like if I'm walking forwards and you're walking backwards, we're somehow gonna, like, tumble over each other, so I will also walk backwards, holding your hand. What a romantic first date.
Alright, so you two hold hands, begin to walk backwards, and Emmett, you can see them, again, sort of crest over this imperceptible hill back into your vision. And they make their way towards you.
I think as they're getting close, backing up, just Emmett's voice is suddenly there. Congratulations, you found a second method.
Alright, do we see the stuff on the ground?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Was there a team before us? I'm asking the other characters.
No, I don't think so. Although, curiously, we are named Delta. I don't know what that says about Alpha, Beta, or Charlie.
Uh-huh.
So, either we're not the first team, and this is someone else's gear, or somehow our stuff, because it's very obviously the same stuff that we have. It's, it's got the little advanced logo on it.
Is it labeled in any other way?
No, it's got the little advanced logo on it, just like yours. Other than that, I think that...
I like the idea that there's a logo.
I think that, maybe the, one of the scraps of fabric that is here looks like it might have been torn from a jacket, and I think there's, what might be the beginning of a letter of your names are printed on your jackets. It might be the beginning of a name, but it's, half a letter, and you can't, It's it might be the first half of an L. It might be the first half of an I. It might be the first line in an E. It's just, that one line that could be the beginning of any letter, essentially. It's certainly not an S, but...
I don't think we want to dig that up.
There are some animals that mimic others' behaviors.
You mean animals that mimic a jacket?
Not saying necessarily an animal. Just something.
That makes me feel a little better. I thought you were going to suggest some kind of chrono loop or something.
Oh, what? Isn't that's one of them JRPGs, right? Chrono Loop?
Close. But yes, the idea is the same. It's some kind of a time loop that we are stuck in here and we live and die over and over again.
Oh.
Well, we can't rule out that possibility either.
Oh, man, time travel movies always gave me a headache.
Well, do let me know if anyone else seems to find, and I look down at the pieces of equipment that are there that are kind of specific to me. If anyone else seems to find the remnants of their own corpse, it might be worth noting.
Lee thinks about the outline of a body he saw in the building, but does not say anything.
Well, I'm ready to leave this behind.
Yep.
Yes. So backwards.
Always forward.
Well.
Except when we walk backwards.
Except this time.
Yes. Mm.
Yeah.
All right, so headed backwards towards the tree line. Well, headed facing backwards, headed forwards towards the tree line. The three of you continue to walk, and it's 10 minutes, and you all are at the tree line. It is quicker than it should be, probably. But especially after how long you had been walking through this field, it feels very quick. And as you reach the tree line, you notice that, it's starting to get dark. The sun is moving towards the horizon, and it is quite dark under the trees. And based on your map, theoretically, this is a fine place to set up camp for the night. You've made it roughly a fifth of the way towards the center, despite the, hours that you spent walking through what should have been, an hour-long field. And you begin to, I assume, set up camp. Does that sound about right?
I think so.
Yeah.
You've got, 3 tents. You've each got a tent in your pack that you can set up. You've got, again, these, portable, kind of small, compact machines if you want to run your samples, Lee, that you had picked up. Start to run these through these machines. They'll take a few hours, but you can put them in. You can, set it up, check in the morning before you all set off on your way. You've got food for the night. You've got nice warm sleeping bags. Is there anything in particular you all are doing before you turn in for the night?
Do we want to set up a watch?
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah.
How do we want to do? I draw straws, or?
Can I request last watch so I can be up when these samples are done processing?
Sure.
Thanks.
I'm fine to take first.
Very well.
Or middle, I mean.
Does any of your... I don't necessarily have any equipment that sees well in the dark besides a flashlight. I don't know if you've got any, night vision, anything. I don't know what you're carrying around, but that might be better for the middle of the night.
Yeah, no, they... well, I guess maybe... I don't know if this is a question for the GM, actually. whether or not I have night vision anything.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
I was gonna say no. I was gonna
up to you. My real answer is up to you, but
why the hell not?
Because it's cooler that way now. Well, actually, you know, I'm willing to bet that I have a night vision scope.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't think I have goggles necessarily.
I think that works.
But I mean, you could just look through it if you want. It doesn't have to be attached to the gun.
Yes, all right. Question for you both, though. Thinking back to what we just experienced, it reminds me very much, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the lore of Baba Yaga, but the way that you enter her house, there's a little phrase you must say. Turn your back to the forest, your front to me. Is interesting, having to walk backwards towards the forest to gain entrance.
All I know about the Baba Yaga is the chicken leg house.
Ah, yes.
When did you learn so much about Russian folk tales?
I'm a big proponent of cryptid lore. A lot of the circles that I run in used to work with involved that kind of thing.
I've been the tour guide for it's eccentric types.
Yes.
Good to know you both have experience with the strange.
Yes, not much here that isn't so far.
Yeah, I think after this I'll be good on strange for my lifetime. I thought I'd seen it all.
There's always more to see.
So, Rook, you are taking the first third of the evening to watch.
Mm-hmm.
The forest around you is quiet. It's a fairly uneventful watch. Though as you are, it's once it is kind of fully dark, have you just found somewhere to sit? Are you, patrolling around the area? How are you going about this watch?
I assume that we've got a campfire going.
Sure.
So I think I'm just kind of maintaining the campfire and just sort of look around every once in a while, maybe stand up and do a little turn around the tents and then sit back down for a bit.
I think during one of these sort of brief patrols, you think you hear something moving beyond the sort of boundaries of your camp, but after a few minutes, the noise passes. It seems like whatever it was just kind of passing nearby to you. And other than that, it is relatively quiet. And then after a while, your watch tells you that it is about time to switch. Do you go and wake Emmett up?
Yeah. Try not to scare him.
Emmett, how are you going about your watch? Are you using this night vision scope that Rook has given you?
If I hear something, yes.
Sure.
But I think other than that, I'm sitting at the fire and I'm writing and just getting up and walking around the fire every now and then and just listening.
Yeah. What are you writing?
Just some random thoughts about what could possibly be going on. Is this some kind of strange temporal event? Is it something to do with, the growth of nature here? All the possibilities that we kind of talked about, a time loop or something mimicking us, just notes of anything that it could be, and putting little lists underneath them of if it was this, here's how we might check to see if that's what it is.
I think probably about halfway through your watch shift, you begin to hear something sort of just beyond the edge of your camp. Something kind of rustling in the underbrush.
So I will get so that my back is to the fire, so that I'm not trying to look over the fire with this scope, and see if I can see anything.
You see a sort of largish shape a little ways off. I think it looks like it is, if not the same creature as you saw earlier, something similar. That kind of biggish, wounded bear or moose or strange hybrid between the two. And I think that it is only after you have seen it and identified it that you realize that you can hear its sort of low, pained, moaning noise.
Are you injured?
This moaning noise continues.
Come here. Come closer. Let me see if there's something that ails you. I can't see it in the darkness.
It begins to move in your direction.
That's right. Come on. And I will set the scope down and dig into my pack and get the first aid kit out and just kind of wait to see what happens.
It moves towards you, sort of past the trees that define the clearing in which you've set up this camp, and sort of into view. And you can, it is very dark, but with the light of the fire, you can sort of make out, again, it's like bear-like face and it's moss-covered antlers, and it sort of comes to a stop, and then less like it is sitting down and more like it is falling. It sort of moves to lay down on the ground near you, and you can see that it has a wound on its side.
I will stand so that I'm in its line of sight, and I uncuff my sleeve and I roll it up, and you can see that there is this almost like a nodule on my forearm of skin that has kind of bubbled up, and it's green, and there are veins running out of it into the rest of my arm. I've never quite seen anything like you before. You're unusual. But so am I. It's all right. I'm not going to hurt you.
It sort of falls silent, as if it is heeding your words.
Yeah, so I will go and try to see what this wound is.
This sounds like a risky task.
Yeah.
Say what you hope will happen and ask the GM and the other players what could possibly go wrong.
So I think what I hope will happen is that I can figure out what happened to it, if not how to fix it, because it seems like it's been going around wounded for a while, so I don't know that there's any way to help it. But if I could figure out either what did it or how to, ease its suffering.
Yeah.
What could go wrong? What couldn't?
Him chomp.
Yeah.
Him chomp. Yeah, lashing out in fear.
Yep. Just general risk of injury by a large animal.
Yeah.
Accidentally killing it?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That almost seems worse somehow. I'm not sure why, though.
Infection risk. Lots of great stuff. All right, so you're definitely skilled in this. This is medicine. Well, it's not quite surgery. It's some combination of, it's medicine.
Yeah.
Are you willing to risk your mind or body in order to succeed?
Yeah, I think so. Like, there's something strange in this environment, and if we could possibly have an ally, it might be worth the risk.
Sure. Does anyone have a devil's bargain to offer here?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I can't think of anything.
All right, so one light, one dark.
Okay.
You rolled a light 4 and a dark 6.
Yeah.
So your ruin's gonna go up to 4.
Uh-huh.
Feels appropriate here.
Yeah.
And you succeed. Full success. So is this success both sort of successfully identifying what's going on as well as sort of healing it enough that it won't be so injured anymore? What does your success here look like?
That's a good question. I think what I want to ask is, before the idea of can I lessen its suffering? Can I figure out what did this? Can I heal it so that it will be okay? Like, is there a trade-off here? Can I heal it so that it will be okay and not be able to identify it? Or if I want to identify it, is it just kind of put at ease? Like, is there what's the condition of this thing before I try to work on it? Does that make sense?
Yes, that does make sense. I think the easier thing to do here is going to be to sort of identify it, in part because what you're identifying is difficult to fix.
Yeah.
So I guess just to give you some, maybe I should give you your condition first. Only because what I'm about to say may incur a second ruin roll.
Okay.
So you are going to look at this and you're having a little bit of trouble seeing, and you think at first that maybe it's just because you're sort of doing this by firelight, which is not great light for doing medical work.
Yes.
Do you pull out a flashlight to get a better look?
Yeah, once it seems like it's not, that it's going to relax, yes.
Okay, you pull out your flashlight, and that definitely sheds some more light on what's going on, but your vision is still, like, a little blurry in one eye. It's like there's something in your eye, like right in the corner of your eye that is obscuring your vision a little bit, just blurring it slightly. Almost so that out of one eye, everything kind of looks the same as the sky looked earlier. And when you go and sort of try to rub it out of your eye, this, like, film of, it's like a strange mix of that black goo that the canteen left on your hands earlier, and what looks like it might be like a thick green kind of algae. And you wipe it away and your vision clears, and all of the, like, green colors around you are slightly brighter. And I'm going to call this condition, blurry eyes.
Got a bad case of the green eye.
Yeah. But once you've cleared your eye, and I think even maybe the emphasis on green that you are now seeing is helping a little bit as you take a look at this creature's wound. It doesn't look like an injury that was, say, caused by another creature. It doesn't look like scratches. It doesn't look like a bite. At first, it doesn't look like anything understandable. Like, it's not a recognizable wound of any kind. There's just this sort of, like, mass of injured flesh. But the closer you look, the clearer it becomes that it's less like there is an injury in this thing's flesh, and more like this thing's flesh has been constructed around a pre-existing injury. It's like the skin has grown to accommodate this wound somehow.
Mm-hmm.
The skin and the sort of patchy, kind of mangy-looking fur on its side. And the closer you look, it looks like this might have been a bullet wound. And the other thing that you see as you look at it is that there appears to be sort of movement within the wound. And as you move your flashlight to get a closer look, you see a sort of swarm of tiny white insects. Is that disturbing?
I almost don't think so.
Sure, yeah.
That insects on wounds isn't as jarring because of some of the skills that I have.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But yeah, based on the way that this thing seems less to be wounded and more to have been shaped around this wound, it seems like it would be difficult to fix. You could certainly try.
Yeah. I think I will then try to just make it comfortable.
Sure.
And I don't know if that involves, you said earlier that we had the impression that it was looking for a place to die.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't know if that entails, giving it some painkillers and just sitting by the fire and kind of rubbing its head until it goes to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that works. And I think that, it sort of closes its eyes and its breathing slows. And then, after about an hour or so, you can feel that its breathing has stopped. When you go to wake Lee for his watch, do you tell him about this?
Yeah. In fact, I hate to do it, but I think I wake up Rook as well, just for a moment to tell them both this thing. It came here. It was wandering out there. It approached, injured. I'm getting more and more unsettled by the idea of being stuck in some kind of a loop. It seems like that thing had a bullet wound, but the skin, it grew around it. Not a fresh wound, but an old one, like the body formed around the wound.
Like a scar?
No, still raw and weeping, filled with maggots.
When Emmett says weeping, Rook rolls her eyes.
Does that mood change when he says maggots?
When he says maggots? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like mid-eye roll, and then just sort of a, quick freeze. And I think maybe I should check on my wound.
Are you gonna do that here, or are you gonna go back to your tent and deal with it there?
I'll deal with it in the tent. Yeah, I'll wait till I'm alone.
Cool. Lee puts a hand on Emmett's shoulder and says, you did the right thing. Comforting it, I mean.
Is it still breathing?
No, it seems to have passed on. I obviously didn't want to startle you with its appearance. I know that you understand nature and animals much better than I, if you want to take a look at it.
Rook's gonna walk over, examine it a little bit, and then very quickly put, 2 bullets into its skull, just to be sure.
Yeah. It doesn't move, that's not difficult.
Yep, okay. Well, I guess that's one less thing to worry about. Make sure you, get some hand sanitizer or something if you touched it.
I'm not sure how you think this is one less thing to worry about.
Well, if it's dead, then it can't claw me up again.
Yes, we'll see. Come tomorrow night if it's still dead.
Rook doesn't say anything, but she definitely, that definitely does give her, a little shiver. She would never admit it, but... Okay, yeah, I'm gonna get back in my tent and check my bug wound.
Yeah, no bugs. The skin around the edges has started to turn a little green, but not the green of an infected wound. More like the green of a plant. Is that disturbing?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it is.
Give me a ruin roll. Your ruin's at 3. It's a 2, so you're safe. Just a little gross, but you managed to get back to sleep. Wrap up your arm and get back to sleep. Lee, are you taking over watch?
Yes, I am.
All right. So you go to take over watch, and your machines running samples and whatnot are almost done. Do you sit down to wait? Are you pacing around the area?
I think I'm probably standing for a little bit. Definitely keeping an ear out and an eye out. But I think I also take my shoes and socks off and just feel the ground on my bare feet for a little bit. Maybe imagining them as roots and my body as vines with purple flowers.
Yeah. You are doing this, and you are overcome with the impulse to just, close your eyes and feel it. And you can imagine it perfectly. You can imagine your body turning into vines, into these purple flowered vines. And when you open your eyes, it is light outside. It is morning. You don't know how long your eyes have been closed. And as you open your eyes, the camp around you is destroyed.
Oh, no.
Your tent has been shredded apart, and the machines are crushed, and the samples are spilled out on the ground around you. But that's not the weirdest part. The weirdest part is that you know how the seasons work. You know where the sun should be rising right now, and it is not. It is rising from a position that it should be rising 6 months from now. 8 months from now. Completely different season. Go ahead and make a ruin roll.
Yeah, alright.
You're at a 3, and that's a 4. So your ruin goes up to 4.
Boy, howdy.
You go to move to rush over to your samples that have been probably destroyed beyond, salvaging. And it is hard to lift your feet from the ground. It is like something is holding them or tying them down or rooting them to the ground. You manage to walk, you manage to pick your feet up and go, but it is slow and difficult work. They give you the condition rooted feet.
Ah, man. Yes, good.
Camp is destroyed. Your tent is destroyed. Your pack of gear has been torn open, and its contents are spilled across the ground around your tent.
I'm gonna call out, Rook? Emmett?
I'm up in a flash. What's going on?
You exit your tent and you can see what is going on. It is destroyed.
What the fuck? How? I mean, I'm a deep sleeper.
I just closed my eyes for a second.
How did this happen without us waking up? Are you okay? Did something attack you?
No, I'm fine. But look at the sun. It's all wrong. I don't understand.
Fuck this place.
All my samples are destroyed too. We will never understand how this place works.
Does that mean we can go now?
If we can get out.
Rook, you, when Advance sort of set all of this up for you, they sort of okayed everything that was going to be in your pack with you, but they packed it for you, except for one personal item that you were allowed space for. What did you bring?
Well, they wouldn't let me bring the elephant gun. I think that I brought my favorite knife. They were giving me a knife, but I like to carry more than one.
What does the knife look like?
It's like a pretty classic Bowie with a hilt that's like carved from elk antler.
As you are looking at the broken machines and scattered samples that Lee is pointing out to you, you see that knife on the ground at your feet, and it is snapped in half.
I check my boot where I keep it.
It's not there.
The fuck? Rook just makes like a big sigh and kind of sits down to think about this.
I'm sorry. This is my fault. I should have been paying closer attention.
No, what? Something got in here, stole my knife from my boot. I slept with my boots on, without me knowing, destroyed your tent and all your science bullshit without waking us up. Where the hell's Emmett?
Yeah. What? Huh?
Look at this. Look at this place, man.
What happened?
We don't know.
We don't know. Yes, exactly. That's the problem.
What? I'm sorry. It could be grogginess. What do you mean we don't know?
Ivy points to the tent and all the busted up stuff and says, "We don't know how this happened. Is your stuff messed up? Like, do you have all your stuff?"
I turn back and look at my tent and step inside to make sure everything is okay.
You were also allowed space for a personal item. What did you bring?
I think I brought the key card, like the scan card, for the job that I lost that I'm trying to get back.
Oh.
Emmett, your key card is also missing. Lee, you are, as this is all happening, I assume sort of like looking around at the samples and all of that, the damage.
Yeah, seeing if anything is salvageable.
One of the machines seems to be not so much broken as jammed, and you sort of pry open a side panel, and there's a key card like shoved inside the machinery.
Huh.
I come out of the tent.
Yeah, does it say Dr. Emmett Blackburn on it, or?
Yeah, I mean, it would have my my picture on it, like a scan badge to get into to sealed doors.
You come back out of your tent and you look at Lee, and he is holding your key card and looking in the side of a machine.
What are you doing with that?
It was in one of the machines.
So something got into camp and went through our things while you were on watch, and it didn't wake us. You didn't see anything.
Didn't see anything? I didn't hear anything?
Well, perhaps tomorrow night we all just get a full night of sleep and not worry about a watch, since it doesn't seem to do any good.
I would prefer not to be here for another night, if that's an option.
You're still of the belief that that's our decision.
They gave us rations for 10 days.
Rook picks up the hilt and whatever is left of the blade attached to it, and slips it back into the sheath in their boot, and they just fling the other half of the blade off into the brush somewhere.
I hand the key card back to Emmett.
Thank you. I take a moment to try to, straighten it back out and clean off the smudges.
All right, I think we have to make a decision here. Do we stick to the mission, or do we make a tactical retreat?
I want to keep going forward. Maybe that doesn't make sense to either of you, but I need to keep going forward.
I am inclined to agree. I have the very real impression that if we were to try and turn around and leave, I've already seen some of our fates.
Well, shit. I'm not getting out of here on my own, so I guess I'm stuck with you two.
Do you all pack up camp and set off towards the center?
Yeah, how much of my stuff is recoverable? Do I have rations still? Do I have...
So, yeah, your rations are mostly intact. They're kind of scattered all over the place, but aside from one or two, packages which have been torn open are mostly recoverable. Though you go to pick up one of these polypropylene bags that the rations are packed in, and one of the ones that is shredded open, you can see that there's a thin film of a sticky green algae coating the inside of the bag. And Rook and Emmett, as you go to sort of pack up your tents and your sleeping bags, you notice, I think Rook probably, you notice that there is also this same kind of sticky green film of algae on the inside of your tent. And Emmett, you see it too, only it's on the inside of your sleeping bag. Aside from your tent specifically, Lee, and the machines and the samples, which are pretty much destroyed beyond repair, most of your stuff is fine. I think maybe your radio is smashed, but other than that, the majority of your stuff is recoverable.
Good to know.
I think after seeing the green film inside the tent, Rook is going to remember that she, what she saw on her arm, and I think she's gonna show the other two her wound.
Yeah, it is green around the edges. The same sort of shade of green as this algae.
What do you think? Should we cut it off? She is joking, but not really joking.
It would certainly make for an interesting experiment. I am almost positive I could do it cleanly, but I found the same stuff inside of my sleeping bag. Has anyone noticed it anywhere else?
I mean, it was in my tent. That's what reminded me to show you guys this.
Some of my rations had been torn open. I was inside.
I want to walk over to the creature that fell asleep and look at it and see if there's any moss on it that looks like it resembles this color or texture.
Yeah, the green on its antlers is the same. I think you also notice a little bit of this around its sort of original wound. And where it's most densely concentrated is actually around the bullet wounds from Rook in its head. It sort of seems to have spread quickly from there. Oh. And as you were looking at this, as you were examining, it almost looks as if this sort of algae-like material has covered over the wounds from Rook. And as you were looking sort of very closely at this, it opens its eyes, and its eyes are also covered over in this sort of green algae. And it's still not breathing, but it does begin to move. Do you want to give me a ruin